I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Andrea Hylen is speaking on collaboration as a model for female empowerment. Andrea is devoted to healing generational trauma, grief, and loss with creative expression and the ancestors. She's a mother of 3 adult daughters with ancestors from Scotland, Ireland, England, Sweden, Germany, and Mayflower settlers. She started the organization Heal My Voice after experiencing the loss of a brother, son, and husband. And she is a writer and somatic-intuitive coach trained in orgasmic meditation and energy modalities. Andrea is a life scientist, experiencing all life has to offer. She lives a house-free lifestyle with a mailbox in Los Angeles and embodies the possibilities of a sharing economy. And you can find Andrea's website in the text of this video. Andrea, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jenny. First, I'll just say that the title here is Collaboration as a Model for Female Empowerment. And the definition of collaboration is the action of working with someone to produce or create something. So as I'm going through and telling you a few stories and sharing some tips, just keep in mind anytime that you have worked with someone to produce or create something. When I started Heal My Voice in 2010, after collaborating with women in a homeschooling community for 15 years, I wanted to create a space for women to be vulnerable and reclaim power that was tied up in an old story of trauma, loss, grief, or disappointment. I wanted a space where women could be leaders and practice the art of listening and speaking, to give voice in this circle in a weekly community call where one person might share the best day of their life that happened that week, and another woman might share the worst day of her life. In this same 1 hour, women were encouraged to not hold back from what was happening, being real with each other, removing the masks, so that in the same space, grief and celebration were welcomed. Well, a common theme I heard from women at that time was how women would rather work with men than women. And I was curious about what had happened, like why was there that desire, that distinction? And I was told, well, women are too emotional, or women compete with other women, and there were stories of betrayal. Women gossip and can't be trusted. And there were these variations of not trusting women that began with their mother, their sister, their friends in childhood, and it had been carried over into the workplace. I've been reading a book recently called Why Men Never Remember and Women Never Forget. And in the book, the doctor who is, it was a book written about 20 years ago by a woman who became interested in this topic because she was a cardiologist and she was looking at the health differences between men and women, or how a heart attack, for instance, would present itself, early signs that were different in men and women. And so she became very interested in studying these differences in the way our brains function and differences in our hormonal fluctuations that influence our brains. Now, this is not better or worse, it's different. And what I love about reading this book or even thinking about this topic is how we can learn from each other. Men are better at single focus, sticking to the facts. Like, they can get very single focus. Women are better at multitasking and delivering information with stories. As a matter of fact, there's a whole industry now around telling stories as part of branding and communicating about your business. So turning my attention back to female empowerment and the benefit to learning to collaborate with each other, and seeing that learning to work woman to woman is empowering for two women or a group of women, the number one key for collaboration is your relationship with your power. And as came up in our group as we were talking, your ability to navigate conflict, to sit in the discomfort of differences, feelings, and emotions. So this is one way to cultivate your superpowers. You're probably familiar with a quote by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. Well, she wrote these words 31 years ago in 1992 in her book, A Return to Love. But here's the thing, what she's really speaking about is power, that your power, your inner source of power is so potent and large and brilliant that the idea of using it can be scary. Like, what would you do if you had access to all of your power and you used it? And I want to highlight that when you cultivate your inner power, your presence, even when silent, radiates in the room. When I started Heal My Voice, the mission statement was to empower women to reclaim their inner authority and step into greater leadership in their home, community, business, and the world. Inner authority is the home of our personal power. And over time, we changed the word empower to support, because you can't really empower someone. Empowerment is birthed through learning how to use our power. You can give people tools, resources, space to practice using their power, and allow for the messy, potent learning to surface. And it is messy and potent. You can learn about your power by using it and learning what works, what doesn't work. You make mistakes. And think about someone learning to, if you ever see the hoses that the firefighters use, that it involves learning how to connect with your core when the water starts to flow, and learn how to adjust your body and make calibrations. And with power, this translates to learning when to speak and when to be silent, and holding a wide range of sensations in your body. And I love how these things just organically appear, because in our group today, we had an experience where there was a conflict from an outside source, and then there were tools that were brought in for us to hold the sensation and then release what was not ours. And so this is part of the learning of our power, and we can do this in collaboration with women. Now, there are two very different definitions of empowerment in the dictionary. One is authority or power given to someone. And number two is the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. And I find these two really fascinating, because the first definition defines empowerment as something that is given to you, as if you didn't have power until that moment where someone in authority gave you power. So during your childhood, just think about, were you given spaces to express yourself? Did the gift of power come with an expectation? Did you witness someone using their power to harm someone else, either physically or verbally? Because those experiences are what help you to begin to decide if you're going to use your power or not. The second definition defines empowerment as something that you've had all along, and it's up to you to open the box, claim it, and learn how to use it. So the other thing I want to point out is we've been living in a culture that normalized the suppression of feminine energy. This is things like intuition, creativity, and if you are a woman, then you were part of that, what was being suppressed. Women were conditioned in childhood to be nice, to apologize, even when they have done nothing wrong, to put other people's needs before our own, or even not even claim that you have needs, to doubt our own inner knowing and innate instincts. And all of this conditioning taught us to suppress our power. I know that I have had this happen, and I know of other women witnessing the misuse and abuse of power. Was another thing in childhood was like, well, I don't want any of that because I don't want to harm people, or being taught to be silent when we needed to speak up, or how to manipulate instead of being direct and honest. So that's another misuse of power. All right, so when you partner and collaborate with other women, there's an opportunity to learn how to flex your muscles and use your inner power with freedom of expression and without domination. So now I want to go into a few tips on successful collaborations. One, and again, I love how these things were coming up in the group when we were talking about this question around collaboration, that you're already doing this, you're already seeing this. And so here's just a few reminders. Number one, have a common goal or purpose. If you're creating an event, co-hosting a podcast, co-leading a Facebook group, developing a program, it should be something that has a benefit for both of you. Like, why are you doing this? And how will it serve a message that you want to get out into the world, or the building of your business, or a platform, and see how this can support both of you, or if you're doing this with more than one person, a group of people. Another tip is create space for processing ideas and feelings. This needs to be a focus in your early meetings, with space for processing on a regular basis. It can be a space to feel and express feelings. Women are naturally designed for multitasking, and that means that when you create something, it's also connected to other things in your life. When I was collaborating with Lucky Sweeney and Bonnie Kelly around organizing an evolutionary women retreat in Baltimore, I did a lot of crying on our weekly call. And you may say, oh, I don't want to collaborate with people who are crying. Well, let me just say, I think it goes back to the Marianne Williamson quote, because I was bumping up against the edges of my brilliance and using my power. And I have witnessed this with the same thing with other women who I've collaborated with. So if you just know that it's normal to have tears or anger or fear surface in the beginning, and then during times where you can feel this expansion happening, that's actually one of our superpowers, to be able to feel so deeply about things. And it can come up. And here's the thing, in that space where you're processing, you also build trust, which allows for honesty, individuation, and interdependence. All right, another tip is be willing to get into the ring with each other. And I don't think I really understood the power of this until I stayed with Marie Eklipanovska in Sweden for 6 weeks. Marie had been in the second Heal My Voice project, and she was so inspired by what happened that she wanted to bring this to Sweden. And she said, I want to call it Heal My Voice Sweden. So she chose to stay connected, hired me to do some coaching and speaking to the group. And it was just amazing to collaborate with her. And then a few years later, we decided to collaborate around a project called Sensual Voices. And we had a wide range of women from spiritual, religious communities and sex workers. I had been in contact with a group of women who were exploring freedom in sexuality, and some of them were sex workers. And Marie and I had these intense, passionate conversations for several days about who we would approach to be in this group of 20 women. And there was sandpaper, and we were like in the rock tumbler, and we're in there sparring with each other. At least that's what it felt like. But our visions were so different. But we finally, in the end, we reached an agreement that we'd trust in our friendship and skills to hold a space for any woman who felt called to be in the project. And this brings into having boundaries. Like in the intense conversations, we had boundaries. There was zero name calling, shaming, putting each other, neither of us. We didn't put each other down. We listened intently and came back with our visions and all. So learning to dance with power without shaming or making the other person wrong. And you can stay curious, like, why is her, this is so different that I'm seeing it. Let me listen to what she has to say, what she's saying. And then recognizing that sometimes we're going to say no to something, and that you have to be willing to disappoint someone and not abandon yourself in what you believe and what you see. Okay, how am I doing on time, Ginny?
You've got about 3 minutes.
All right, so let me just go very quickly and tell you a few mistakes. One is micromanaging people. There needs to be space for individuation and change. And I know this came up in a conversation in our group, like allow space for evolution. Another one is expecting that you're both the same just because you're women. Like you are a unique expression. So finding places where you intersect and where you have room for individual expression. It's good to collaborate with someone who isn't just like you. Differences are good. A lot of innovation comes out of that. And then a common experience for women is comparison and jealousy. So if you find yourself stuck in this, look deeper into desire. Take responsibility for what's triggering you and journal or even go work with a coach to help uncover that. Like, what do you want and what's one step you can take towards getting it? And then you get to learn about what you truly want. And so one question that I suggest you tape to your bathroom mirror: what is my collaborative partner or team mirroring to me? What can I learn from this thing that is triggering me? And finally, I'll just say, let go of the expectation that it should feel good all the time. You'll never grow into your brilliance without some sandpaper and rock tumbling. Okay, that's it. That's what I've got. Thank you for listening, and thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you, Andrea. I'd like everyone to unmute yourself so we can applaud for Andrea. Let's do it really loud and let her know how much we appreciate what she shared. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I want to thank anyone who's watching this, either the replay or live right now. If you'd like to join us for one of our 9 free Zoom gatherings a month, or an in-person in Columbia, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, or Tallahassee, Florida, comment below and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also go to my website, opwgc.com, and find out all about our community.